We'll move on then to the All-Ireland Club Hurling Final, which Na Fianna won 2-26 against Sarsfields, 23 points. Big condolences, of course, to Matthew Hurley, the Gaelic statsman, who, of course, was involved with the Stars backroom team. It just wasn't their day. And look, like I personally believe, look, let's obviously state the obvious. Na Fianna were superb. They were genuinely fantastic right from the word go. The whole setup for the final, like getting the mascots and all, and then the parade down from Ovie Road, and just the whole area around Drumcondra was just yellow and blue balloons, yellow and blue flags. And like they've a really, really good club there in Na Fianna. Like they have a really, really good community. They all got out, they all got behind the team from very, very early on in the championship as well. Like from the Dublin Championship, their support in Parnell Park was very good. And genuinely, like that club final, I was impressed with how many people were there. Like the noise for some of the scores was pretty impressive, like for clubs to be making. Na Fianna, the minute the game got underway, you could tell they were on it, and you could tell that Sarsfields weren't. And I think player for player, skill for skill, I think if you had to play this game 10 times, I think Na Fianna might win it 7 times, but I do think Sars could win it 3. And I do think Sars have the capabilities to beat Na Fianna. And it's hard to say that now, given how the game has gone. But before the game, people were scared to call this one. People were scared to say with chest who they thought was going to win. You were tipping favourites, but you definitely weren't ruling people out. And if you said that Na Fianna were going to win by 9 points, and also that the 9 points would actually be a little bit like, so what's the word? Why am I failing English here? But that it would be a little bit almost generous would be crazy.
Yeah. Like, I mean, like it was always going to be a very, very hard game to predict and call, given what both teams have achieved. Like Sars obviously coming through beating Ballygunner, Na Fianna coming through Dublin. Like I put out a cheeky tweet before the start of the game and said that Na Fianna would win by 5. Now, to be honest with you, I was also keeping one eye on that tweet and getting ready to delete it in case things went massively wrong. To be honest with you. But yeah, no, it was an incredible win, incredible story for Na Fianna. Like the way that they played from start to finish, the work that's been done in the club as well. Like, as you said, it's been a journey for them, like much like Hula. It's been an incredible journey for Na Fianna over the last couple of years. And as you said, like the sharpness, the tempo, the energy that they brought. And it just looked like Sars were kind of a bit stunned or a bit shocked by how good Na Fianna were, like even the body language on some of the players as well, which is surprising given that they played Ballygunner and they've Sars have, in Cork as well. They're used to playing great teams. They probably played better teams than Na Fianna down the years, but it was an incredible effort by Na Fianna. And realistically, like it's, Sars did need something like Errigal Kieran. They needed to get going, and they threatened it. Like they got a couple of points, but it just felt like Na Fianna always had them at arm's length. And it was a 12-point lead at half time. It was 9 by full time, and you just knew this was only going to end one way.
Yeah, well, we have a couple of messages in here from Matthew. Matthew says, well, lads, tough one to take yesterday. Absolutely gutted for the Stars team, but has been an unbelievable journey, as Johnny referenced. To get the experience of an All-Ireland final was surreal. Privileged to be part of such an amazing group, players, management, backroom team, everyone. Well done to Na Fianna. And that, I mean, just epitomizes, the class that Stars have. Well said, Matthew. Look, both teams, you could tell they had a lot of respect for each other. Like going into the game, you could tell by the way that that Niall was talking. You could tell by the way that Johnny Crowley was talking. They respected the journey that the other team had come from, and it was going to be a very, very hotly contested final. And just unfortunately, like Johnny in his post-match interview, like when he was talking, he did genuinely look like he was just wasn't our day, and he was giving out. That's what I respected a lot. Like a lot of people were throwing out things, being like, "Was it this? Was it this? Was it this? Was it the gap between the semi-final and the final? Was it the whatever?" Yeah. And he wasn't taking any of them. He was like, "No, the prep was good. Just wasn't our day." And I respected the hell out of that. Like sometimes it's just not your day. And look, Na Fianna, that march down from Ovie Road that they had, and the fact that it's in a stadium where it is so close to home, that would have felt like a million times closer to a home game for Na Fianna than it would have felt for Sarsfields. And look, the reality is, once Na Fianna got their tails up, it reminded me a lot of, and like this final between Na Fianna and Sarsfields, everybody tipped it to be a really, really tight game. But it reminded me a lot of the Dublin hurling final a couple of years ago, when Na Fianna at that point had not yet won the Dublin Championship, but they got that early goal from Sean Curry against Ballybowden. And all of a sudden it was like the penny dropped with them, where they were like, actually, we can beat these. We can beat these. And then they battered them. And it was like, once they got the sniff of blood off Sarsfields, it was like, we can get these guys. And they really, really turned up the heat. And Tom Brennan's goal, like early on, you're thinking, right, this is trouble here. Like, if Sars don't turn this around. The second half, I thought that they started okay, Sarsfields, but then the second goal by Tom Brennan, that was the killer. That was like, right, now I don't see any way back in. Because as you said, hurling is crazy and anything can happen. And if Jack O'Connor had a rattle the back of the net, again, it would have had kind of the Peter Hart effect. But once Tom Brennan got his second goal, I think that was it. And Patrick McDonough here says Na Fianna cruised all game. So what do you think? Was the Brennan second goal, was that the final now?
Yeah, I think so. Like, and they had other goal chances as well. Like, they had other chances that were saved, other opportunities as well. But yeah, like, I would agree as well. Like, with what Johnny said, like a full in his post match, press conference and everything else. Like, I think it's always good to look internally rather than blaming other things or things that are outside your control and everything else. And obviously, they wouldn't have gotten as far as they have if they didn't have that type of mentality, to be fair, and beating the likes of Ballygunner and getting all the way to this stage. And yeah, I just think Na Fianna just on the day they were just sharper, quicker, faster. All the loose balls they were gobbling up, midfields, they were winning those battles, they were winning the individual duels, and the lead was just too big. And I know in hurling, like a 12-point lead in theory isn't, it's a big lead, but it can, we've saw it before where leads like that can be 8 at. But at the start of the second half, Na Fianna tagged on a few points, and you just thought, don't think, Sars needed a couple of goals. And there was a few opportunities where John O'Tracy made 1 or 2 saves, but Na Fianna, as one of the comments said there, they did cruise all game. Like, they always kept Sars at arm's length. But look, as you said, if this game was played again at another stage, could have been closer. It's one of them. Yeah. If Sars get a better start, it could have been a different game.
Well, that's it. Because I think if you look at the teams that Na Fianna have played, like, I think if you look at the teams that Na Fianna have played and definitely struggled more with, like, I definitely wouldn't write Sarsfields off from giving a good game to Loughrea. I definitely wouldn't write Sarsfields off from giving a good game and potentially beating Kilcormac Calahi. Like, I definitely wouldn't write Sars off in any of those games. And we have a good bit of banter here starting off. The year's already off to a flyer, boys. Patrick McDonough says, good club championship, buzzing for Mayo to beat Dublin. I am looking forward to this game, Pat. And may the best team win. I feel like, well, that would be interesting. I mean, Dublin definitely, without Fenton, without McCarthy, it would be interesting to see. And without the Cooler boys, I mean, realistically, they won't be back for this game. We have a great question in here from Liam White. Aaron, I'll throw this to you first. He says, if Na Fianna get out of Dublin in 2025, who do you see as the biggest threats in Leinster and potentially the All-Ireland?
It's a hard one to know, really. I mean, it all depends. The Kilkenny Championship has been a little bit all over the place the last couple of seasons. If Ballyhale, like as you said, they are aging, there's no doubt about it. Your TJ Reeds, your Colin Fennellys, Adrian Mullen. Like, there are a few players there that are still at a good age gap. I would still look at them. I think if they get out of Kilkenny, they're going into Leinster, they're going to be very, and I know it's an obvious pick, they're going to be very, very hard to stop. O'Loughlin Gales, look, they did beat Na Fianna 2 years ago. If they can get out of Kilkenny as well, then who knows?
I think that's the biggest mystery this year. What on earth happened to Thomastown? Like
Thomastown, yeah. I mean,
in that game
that was
against
incredible. I actually
Castletown
forgot about
Gael.
that. Yeah,
But
really
Thomastown got
forgot about
out
that.
and they beat All-Ireland Gaels and Ballyhale. And I remember being like, okay, well, it's Thomastown, Kilcormac, Callaghy, or Na Fianna that will win Leinster. And then out of nowhere,
Yeah.
Castletown just absolutely RKO'd
Yeah,
Thomastown into next week.
we've seen that in Dublin though as well. I think it's like when you come through such an intense championship and you come through so many intense games. Like I think I don't think you do it. I don't think you go into games then in Leinster and you relax and you think, oh, this is going to be easy. But I think just subconsciously you probably do just take a small step back, and even those little small percents, that's just enough for another team to get a good start in the game, build up a bit of confidence, and then all of a sudden you're up against it. And we've seen it tons of times with Dublin teams, Kilmacud Crokes, remember when they lost to Mulliniock, to Vincent's, to Rathnew. We were mentioning earlier about Tyrone champions, like coming through such an intense championship and then going into Ulster and really struggling, so it's I think it's just the nature of how tough it was for them to come out of Kilkenny. I just think they were dead by the time they came into Leinster. But look, it would be, if they can come through Kilkenny again, which you wouldn't bet against, then that's something you would expect them to learn from.
Yeah, I'm personally biggest threats. I'm gonna actually go for Kilcormac Callaghy this time. I think this time next year, I think they'll be 1 year older, 1 year faster, 1 year stronger, and 1 year more experienced as well. Because you looked at players like Adam Screeney, you looked at players like Charlie Mitchell, who are obviously like some of their key players, and you're basically saying, okay, there's no doubt the talent is just screaming at you from a mile away, but they're going to get one solid year now of top inter-county hurling under their belt, where they're going to be playing against some of the best defenders in the country, playing against some of the best teams in the country. Like they're going to be playing against your Kilkennys, your Galways. And if they get out of Leinster, if they manage to sneak into that third place, which I definitely would not rule out, obviously with Dublin, new manager, how's that going to work? Owen O'Donnell stepping away. Wexford are as inconsistent as the weather. Like Offaly could definitely pick up a couple of scalps, and I wouldn't rule them out of finishing in third place. If they do that, like they're in to, an All-Ireland quarter final where they get the losers in the Munster final. Like they could get a serious run where they, get some serious experience, and then Screeney, like Mitchell, like the confidence just build up in them. I think probably this time I'd be leaning Kilcormac Callaghy. If Na Fianna do get past that challenge and make it out into the All-Ireland series, I think you've got to look at who comes out of Munster again, which early prediction, I mean, feel free to come back and tell me how wrong I am, but I actually don't think it will be Ballygunner this time. I think Ballygunner will get overthrown again. I think I would look maybe at someone like an Apirshig and think maybe it will be their time, especially if Peter Casey is back fully fit. I think the difference he could make would be massive. Liam White here responds. He says, as a Kilcormac Callaghy man, I didn't know that, Liam, but you're very welcome, and I look forward to seeing you back, hopefully, in the Leinster Championship. And hopefully Adam Screeney is all right, as I heard that he picked up a bit of a nasty knock, and he won't be around for some of the league, unfortunately. But yeah, last question. So obviously, big condolences to Sarsfields. They've been an absolute thrill to have in the club championship. Their win over Ballygunner was sensational, and then their semi-final win over Slough-Neil was as dramatic as it gets. And Na Fianna, massive congratulations. Thoroughly deserved All-Ireland Club Championship, especially when you look at the hardship. Like, it took them so long to get out of Dublin. When they finally did, then they had the heartbreak against All-Ireland Gaels. They've come back, they've gone all the way this year, and they are worthy All-Ireland champions. The last thing that I was going to say is Na Fianna are the champions. Niall O'Callaghan has become Dublin manager. Myself and yourself were saying on your pod about how this is very, very similar to when Matty Kenny came in and took over the Dublin job, when Coola had won back-to-back All-Ireland Club Championships in the hurling. And everybody wanted Matty Kenny to build the Dublin team around that Coola crop, that the Sean Moores, the Jake Malones, the Keane O'Callaghan's. Con if he was up first, but unfortunately for the hurlers anyway, he stayed with the footballers. What influence, what level of influence do you think that this Na Fianna team should have on the Dublin team in 2025?
Yeah, it's hard to know, and I think you alluded to a little bit earlier. Like it is, Matty Kenny, he was the man who led Coola to those All Irelands, and everything else. So and then he brings in a lot of the Coola lads, and your Jake Malones and these lads, and brings them into the team. So obviously that didn't work, but look, there is a great crop of players there. There's no doubt about it. AJ Murphy's been knocking on. We've been mentioning him for a good couple of years. Colin Curry's been
begging them to play AJ.
Yeah, outstanding. You've got Kieran Stacey, who looks very good as well. So there is some very, very good players there. There's some very, very good players. There's some good building blocks. It's just, it's the same old thing with Dublin hurling, where it's, can you make that step up? I don't think, Kilkenny are still better than us. There's no doubt about that. But are they, are they improving as a team? I'm not sure. I'm not too sure if they're getting the younger players through that they were previously. Now they're still ahead of us.
We showed, they are ahead of us, but we showed in Parnell Park we can compete with them.
Yeah.
In the Croke Park, we were just shite. I don't know what. I never forget. That game was one of the worst games I ever had to watch, because I just remember I was sitting there, and within 5 minutes, I knew we were in the bin. I knew there was no way this was going any other way than an absolute annihilation. I remember they got that goal quick, and I was just like, done. You're like John FIFA, you mill the remote across the room.
Yeah.
Over.
I think, and I think Galway are going to be stronger this year. You've got Wexford, who I think are going to be much better as well. They look good last year, at least post the Antrim game anyway. And then, Offaly are there as well. So it's going to be tough, to be honest with you. I don't really know what to expect with Dublin. It could work really well, but it could be, I definitely think if things don't go well this year, we shouldn't, throw the toys out of pram or anything of that nature. You want to see some level of progress, obviously. You don't want to see regression as such, but I think it is a difficult one, really, because we just are a bit off, and obviously you don't have Owen O'Donnell as well, so that's a big blow.
Yeah, I think Owen jumping to the footballers is a huge blow to the hurlers. I think, if we're being honest, Na Fianna should be the spine of this team, because they have proven that they're the best club in the country in this season, and they were by far the best club in Dublin. I mean, I know Kilmacud Crokes gave them a good run for their money, but Kilmacud didn't win last year as well. Na Fianna have done back to back, and I feel like, look, we should be building a decent spine around that. I think if you go with a spine that Na Fianna have, I think if we're trying to build for the future, as good as he is, I wouldn't pick Liam Rush at 6. I think I'd probably go potentially someone like Chris Crummy, who has a bit more longevity. I did like Conor Donoghue from Erin's Isle last season. But I think if you're being honest, I think you have to have players like, if Conor McHugh is up for the hurling, I think I'd be tempted to go with him. Paddy Smith either. Conor Burke in midfield. I think he has to be there with Brian Hayes from Kilmacud Crokes. And then if you have the forward line, if you have Rian McBride in there, if you have Kieran Stacey on one side, and if you have Donald Burke at centre with Rian on the other wing, and then if you have a full forward line of Sean Curry, AJ Murphy, and Alex Considine,
it's good, it's decent,
or Keane O'Sullivan from Bridget's, that's a good Dublin team. And look, the reality is since the Dalo years, we've kind of been stuck in a pattern of one step forward, one step back. We always seem to gain a player whenever we lose a player. So Donald Burke emerges in the same season that Paul Ryan retires. Chris Crummy emerges in the same season that Stephen Heine retires. We tend to find a player just as we lose a player, and we stay exactly at the same level. We haven't really been snapping at the heels of anybody who's been ahead of us. And most of our seasons tend to go in a way of draw with Wexford, which seems to happen every year, lose to Kilkenny badly, beat the teams that we're supposed to beat, maybe get a result against Galway, but if we don't, we usually finish third anyway, go out into the Leinster and go out in the quarterfinal. And that's kind of been the way it's gone. And I'd love to see us commit to a long-term plan where we're like, these are the group that in 5 years' time will win us in All-Ireland. Look at what Limerick did. They went all in on that crop. And I'm not saying that we have a crop that is as talented as that Limerick team. But if you get a system in place and you learn how far you can take it with the team that you have. Look at what Wexford did in 2019 with Davy Fitz. Like, if you offered that season to me in 2 years or 3 years, I'd snap your hand off for it. I'd enter a title and a thriller in an All-Ireland semi-final because that gives you hope for the future. We've one more comment in here before I wrap it up. Patrick says, this is the worst Kilkenny team in recent memory. Galway will improve. Wexford are decent. Dublin can give everyone a good game like last year. I agree. I think we did give everybody a pretty good game apart from the Leinster final, which I don't know. How did we get on in that one, Aaron? I can't really remember that.
Yeah, no, it's funny enough, it was just must have had amnesia, must have blocked that one. Yeah, I don't know.
Sure we did okay.
Don't know, yeah. A few too many points at half time, so I can't remember.
That was the most expensive championship game of the whole year. But yeah, that is 53 minutes in the book. We've covered the All-Ireland Club football final, the All-Ireland Club hurling final, and of course the news of Conor McManus's retirement. Aaron, thank you so much for jumping on for another episode. I mean, 3 back-to-back episodes, guys. Go check out Gaelic Fan TV if you have not. Thank you very much to Patrick McDonough, to Liam White, and to Kevin Ruddock, and to Gaelic Statsman. All the comments, I love to see it, lads. Thank you very much. It means a lot. Yes, we'll be back on Wednesday with the Allianz League predictions. If you want to know how the league table is not going to finish, tune in for those. Yeah, Aaron, it's been a pleasure. Until Wednesday, guys, take care.